Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and this is the latest chapter of Tales from the Triverse. This is Magic, Part 1. Brulia, Palinor, 3208, Bright Sun. The dimming had worsened, dipping all of Palinor into an unnatural twilight. It was not yet sunset, but the diseased sun hung weakly in the early evening sky, pale and diminished. "It's taking all of the wielding energy for itself," Yana said. "I can sense what it's trying to do." Ensconced within what had once been a suite of university offices, Yana sat on the floor on a thin mat. Christian was in the corner, sulking, as usual, still dabbing at the blood in his nose. The ceiling was mostly intact, this part of the university being closer to the faulty, inactive portal. The other portal, the one to mid-Earth, was 100 or so meters away, surrounded by the demolished portal station. Once an architectural marvel, a symbol of Triverse interconnectedness, the arrival of the megaship had devastated much of the area. Lola Stiles picked at the objects in the office, wondering who it belonged to. A paperweight, shaped like cascading waterfalls, a set of shelves containing books bound with metal locks, a tall ivory vase filled with umbrellas in a city in which it never rained. There was no desk, only the mat and an orrery off to one side, looking identical to those she'd seen in London museums. Palinor was so different, it was easy to forget that the solar system remained largely the same as in the other dimensions, only the names were different. Upon a windowsill was perched Ellenbryn, the Ainfa from the Six Blades. There had been a moment's awkwardness when they had arrived on the scene, Lola acutely aware that she owed these people her life several times over. She hadn't seen them for years, not since that time in London, a lifetime ago, but that's because she didn't recall their last meeting. Lola had been unconscious, and then in a coma, having her body knitted back together by Professor Simova. The Six Blades had killed the Vain-Ka, had kept Lola alive. She'd read somewhere years earlier that when someone has an accident, or falls seriously ill, it can be harder on everyone else. The victim is unconscious or doped up in a hospital bed. It's friends and family who do the suffering. That never made complete sense until she'd seen the look in Ellenbryn's eyes, the slight disbelief in her expression at seeing Lola up and about and alive, albeit bearing new scars and colours. Lola wasn't the only one to have changed, of course. All the Ainfa had become something new. Ellenbryn took a bite from an apple. It burst into flame, and she flung it out of the window. "Shit, sorry. I hope that doesn't happen to everything I try to eat." She rubbed at her eyes and sighed. "The plan is still to fix that broken portal and open it up then." "That's it," Lola said. The Ainfa sharpshooter seemed to be largely unbothered by the physiological metamorphosis that had struck at the moment of the god's death. "What's that actually going to do, though?" The archer looked between Lola and Yana. "I mean, it's not going to magically stop that flying Max Earth thing, is it?" "I laid a turd once that looked like that megaship," said Ungark, stretching their arms as they entered, crouching beneath the doorframe. "I'd eaten a lot of meat and drunk a lot of stout. Black as night. Could have knocked out a Kengto." They raised a hand expectantly to Ellenbryn, who ignored it. "Always bringing sophisticated insights, thanks, comrade." She sucked on her lower lip, frowning. "But seriously, what's your plan here?" Lola glanced at Yana. It's a question she'd been avoiding facing. "It was always the plan? Even with everything else going on, we're sticking to the plan." Right. You see," Ungark said, sucking air through their massive teeth, "that's what gets you fucking killed. Plans are there to help you sleep the night before the battle. You're supposed to ignore them on the day." "Hey," Ellenbryn objected, "that's not true. I put a lot of thought into my plans." Ungark waggled a clawed finger. "That ain't planning. That's knowledge. Insight. That's what keeps you alive. Keeps us alive. Lets us roll with the punches." "All of you shut up," Yana snapped. "The original spell, Cainamor's spell, is incomplete. That's why the second portal doesn't work. I'm hoping I can hook into it and complete it without needing the same power level as Cainamor himself." She looked at the uncomprehending faces in the room. "If I don't do it, that spell is still incomplete, still lingering and able to be hijacked. That's what the ship is trying to do. It's blundering about, making a mess, but it will figure it out sooner or later, and I don't think it's interested in fixing things." folding their huge arms, and Gark scowled. "What are you saying? Or not saying?" "I can sense a little of what it's trying to do. Guess at it, really," Yana said. It doesn't want to finish the spell, to close it off. It wants to expand it, scale it up infinitely, and throw open the doors to an entire multiverse." "That sounds like a recipe for chaos," Ellenbryn said. "That's assuming it does it correctly. Get the details wrong, and that megaship could unravel the fabric of the universe. All universes." Definitely bad," Gark said. "And if you get to do it first, that ends it." "I hope so." Glancing at each other, Ellenbryn and Gark nodded. "Carry on, then." There was movement from the corner of the room, where Christian had been standing silently. "There's still the alternative. Shut down both portals. End the spell definitively. The 3 dimensions go back to how they were supposed to be." It was the same argument he'd been making for weeks, months, probably. For a revolutionary, Christian was remarkably reactionary. It had taken Lola a while to recognise that in him, that all he really wanted was to rewind the clock. Perhaps everyone who wanted power was trying to get back to something, to a false memory of the past. "I need some air," she said, and left the room. A corridor led her out, into the courtyard where the others were waiting. The robots had all departed, suddenly reactivating and running off during the battle between the god and the ship. For a brief minute she'd thought maybe it was all over, one way or another. It seemed impossible that probably Beta could survive an encounter with a god, just as inconceivable that a god could be beaten. Both had come to pass. Darla was sat on a bench next to Gina, hesitant to interrupt their conversation. Lola walked along the opposite side of the courtyard. They'd all arrived around the same time, by which the robots had halted their attack and subsequently departed. A strange stillness had descended, but it was deceptive. Probably Beta was still up there, working its beginner's magic, blustering its way through. It could resume its attacks at any moment, or had perhaps deemed them all irrelevant. Sooner or later they'd have to deal with it, but ideas were thin on the ground. Some of the university lecturers had arrived, emerging from hiding places on campus. The presence of Fountain University had always been touted as Brulia's ultimate weapon. So many skilled wielders in one place should have made the city impregnable. Assumptions had been made. Eric Weinroot was in deep conversation with them, a monster hunter for hire, looking for all the world like he was now lecturing them. He was sketching something in the sand with a stick, gesticulating excitedly as he did so. "Ah, Lola, my wonderful creature," Eric said, smiling wickedly. She understood precisely what he meant. "You'll be pleased to hear that we may have a plan." "A plan?" "Correct." Eric inhaled deeply. "This upstart spaceship thinks it can outplay us at our own game. It needs to be taken down a peg or two. More to the point, Yana isn't telling us everything. Possibly because she doesn't want to cause concern." He leaned in closer, conspiratorially. "We can sense it, though. Even if we can't do what she is trying to do, we can see the effort. We can see what the spaceship is doing, and we can see that it's winning. It's faster, stronger." The strain on Yana's face had been evident ever since they'd arrived at the university. There was nothing any of the rest of them could do to assist. "She's studied the books," Eric said, "and she's looked into the spell. And she's hooked into the spell. We can't get involved, not without making matters worse, and we can't fight the thing head on. It's been tried. But what we can do is slow it down, buy Yana some time." Lola didn't want to get her hopes up. Nothing's worked against it. Eric smirked, the smirk of someone who knows they're cleverer than everyone else in the room, university lecturers included. "So, Lola," he said, "what do you know about refraction?" Thanks for listening. Part 2 will be along next week. You can subscribe, find more, leave comments and all of that stuff over at simonkjones.substack.com.